Asuli mikdash, v'shachanti betocham, and make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. What we just sang in the English part is a shaker hymn that was made from this verse inside of the book of Shmot of Exodus. Vasuli mikdash, make me a sanctuary. And their words were, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. The Shakers, a religious community started by Mother Ann Lee. As a young woman in England, she had visions and visitations that led her to speak her truth and then be persecuted for it. The Shakers are a religious community that came out of her persecution and her visions. She was married and had 4 children, and all of them died as babies. And then she had a visitation by God. And then her followers said that that had been a second coming. And that vision told her that no one is to be married. We're to be married to God. And after a time of persecution in England, a group of 8 left with her and came here to the United States. She gathered an intentional community around her of those who agreed to live simply and to marry God instead of each other. Even if they joined together as a couple, already married, they would end their marriage and now live as siblings, brothers and sisters in this community as they described it. They work for each other and have one united interest. Their worship was filled with song and ecstatic dance. Yes, Nefesh, ecstatic dance. People would actually come to watch them because they found it odd, or maybe they found it incredible, and they would shake, these movements of shaking that I actually ended up learning as a young person when I was dancing. As you know, that is my background, to do these shaker dances as a part of a modern dance piece called The Shakers, choreographed by one of the first American modern dance choreographers, Doris Humphrey. And in a wild twist of fate, I didn't know it was coming, that I would be a rabbi. But I was on stage in New York, spinning, and shaking, and then having this revelation in words out to the audience, like, okay, something was coming through. Mother Ann was a refugee, and she made a refuge, a sanctuary for those wanting to be together, to live simply. 'Tis a gift to be simple. That's another one of those shaker hymns. And to be in devotion and in community where you did not need to be married or have children. I can imagine for some that was a refuge. And she taught her followers to make a sanctuary, each of them inside of themselves and collectively as a community. Make me a sanctuary. Make me into a sanctuary. In the earth and the ecosystems around us, there are areas where sanctuary, where refuge is being created in the midst of distress, of climate change and deforestation. We have shared about this together. These areas are called refugia. In a refugium, organisms come together to care for each other in a time of danger in one area, right where they are. In the Ice Age, when everything froze over, scientists later learned that this is how things continued. Areas got together, organisms got together to take care of each other. And there are remnants, as we learned last night, millions of years later, from this time that survived because of how the organisms created a refuge, a sanctuary. And now, in these human times of incredible peril and danger, we as a species can come together to make refuge, to make sanctuary. Professor and faith leader Deborah Reinstra describes it this way: refugia are places of shelter where life endures in times of crisis. And from out of these small sanctuaries, life reemerges and the world is renewed. She calls them micro-countercultures, where we can gain strength and spiritual capacity to face the challenges ahead. Biologists are looking state by state at where there are areas of refugium. UC David researchers share how in California, there are climate refugia in our state where existing vegetation is expected to persist despite the impacts of climate change. Places like the Northwest Klamath Mountains, the northern Sierra Nevada, and the Central Coast ranges. So refugia can serve as safe havens for species and ecosystems, potentially buffering from the effects of warming temperature, drought, and other climate stressors. Janine Benyus is a biologist and an innovator of designs in many realms. Designs based on nature, known as biomimicry. Janine and many other folks for years have been sharing that everything we need is right here. The blueprint for the designs and innovations we need for all aspects of our lives, from agriculture to housing to community to organizing. We have the blueprints that we need. She lives in Montana on land on a pond. And she shared about that pond. It keeps its promise every spring. It continually creates abundance. It circulates nutrients to every single cell, and it heals from trauma, growing ever more resilient somehow. She said we need to remember this because this is the real world, 3.8 billion years in the making. When she and her partner first came to the land, the pond was a mess. It was full of agricultural chemicals and silt. There was no open water whatsoever, and they tried everything. So they decided, her and her partner Laura, to go to a healthy pond in a natural forest and look around. And what they saw was a flow. So they rushed back, and they saw that they had 4 springs that were being completely smothered on their land. And when they released it, the pond reconnected to its source of groundwater, and it revitalized. And every year, it's getting better and better and better because that's what life does. One organism promotes another organism's success and thriving. Another organism promotes another's in this incredible positive feedback loop. When I heard her share the story in the spring, she said that she wanted us to remember when there's so much talk about negative tipping points, climate change and the melting, and of course they are there, but that there are also positive tipping points where life takes over. It is stunning and is something that we can do consciously and on purpose. Amen to positive tipping points and life taking over. And now where she lives on that land that they set out to heal, it is on the list of Montana refugia. So we can protect refugia, we can be part of them, and we can heal and revitalize. We can protect refuge, and we can make refuge. We can protect sanctuary, and we can make sanctuary for our earth and for each other. Asuli mikdash, make me a sanctuary that I may dwell amongst them. It is active. We can do it. We can build it. I know that as a rabbi and a human who loves countercultural ideas, that I talk a lot about Shabbat. Amen to rest. Amen to Shabbos. However, our tradition also waxes poetic about meaningful work. Meaningful, purposeful, ethical work. And right here, in this verse about making sanctuary, there is a midrashic commentary, Asuli Mikdash. It says that when Adam was in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, He didn't get to taste the fruit until he did work. And in fact, it points to our verse, Asuli Mikdash, and said even the Holy One did not rest their presence within the community until the people had done work. And what work was it? It was the building of the Mishkan. It was the malacha, the work to make a dwelling place for God's presence. It was the work of building sanctuary. That is when God's presence rests amongst us. Refugia make a place for God's presence, for healing, for repair, for surviving, and for thriving. And this is what we're doing together in community, at Nefesh, in our neighborhoods, across our city, building and creating refuge, making a place. So next time somebody comes up to me and be like, what do you do, Rabbi Susan? Well, I make refugia for humans, and more than human beings. I work together with others in our beautiful city to make refuge, to make sanctuary, to sustain and create places right here where people can care for one another, to help each other survive, and to help each other thrive. This midrash I shared, it went on into a beautiful place. It keeps going. And it brings us to Pirkei Avot, and I couldn't think of a better section for where we are right now than this piece of wisdom text. It is inside Pirkei Avot, which is like an ethical treatise. And it says that Shemaiah said, Ohev et hamalacha, usna et harabanut, va'al tidvada larashut. It says, love malacha, love work, hate superiority, and do not draw near to authority, especially if that authority is causing harm and suffering. I'm adding that. It just says do not draw near to authority. But another way of saying authority, the other definitions of this in the Hebrew are this. Draw yourself to malacha. Malacha is the kind of work specifically building sanctuary. Draw yourself to the building of sanctuary. Hate the superior. It could be superiority or power, it could be. And do not attempt to draw near to the ruling authority. And the other ways of understanding that in the Hebrew are power, control, or dominion. So we need to draw near to the work of making sanctuary and draw ourselves away from people who's using their authority to destroy sanctuary, to destroy refuge. One of the many names for Los Angeles is that we are a sanctuary city. A sanctuary city. Los Angeles is a place where people can come when they have to escape harm and brokenness from all over the world and find a place of sanctuary and contribute to the vibrant, alive, incredible, gorgeous, multicultural, multilingual, multi-faith, multi-everything. That is right here. That is where we live. That is our ecosystem. In the couple of weeks before June 6th, we knew that cruelty was coming. We were hearing that folks were being taken in immigration court when they were following the law and showing up for their immigration proceedings. There was a growing fear. We were involved in trainings of House of Worship. LAUSD passed out red cards to every single student. We were getting ready. And then Stephen Miller said to ICE, increase your numbers. They're not getting the numbers they wanted because they are not the numbers of immigrants who have the heinous criminal records that they had claimed. And they want to satisfy campaign promises and specifically continue the fear and scapegoating that is their strategy in this great replacement theory. And to push forward the authoritarian paradigm that always begins with going after the most vulnerable. Choose a group and blame them for the ills of society, which means you can mistreat them. You can treat them cruelty, and it is okay. And then you'll do that to the next group and the next group. And now we're hearing the shift of language just in these last couple weeks around good and evil. And once you call a group of people evil, you can pretty much do whatever you want to them because they are no longer seen as people. It is the language of extremists, religious extremists, political extremists. This is not creating refuge. You can hear it in how people in our current government say the word sanctuary. Do you notice that when they say the word sanctuary city? It's like they're spitting it out. I just want that word to just linger in their mouth. So, people began to be grabbed and shoved into cars. And they were told, increase your numbers any way you can. So the raids came. Raids of masked officers with no name badges, with no warrants, grabbing people on the streets, in workplaces, in parking lots, at food carts, and donut shops. And on and on. And they didn't know if these folks were citizens or not. But instead they assumed, based on what they were, where they were working, the color of their skin and their language, that they were immigrants. And they were just taking people. And as the data has come in, it's so clear what everyone knew. They are overwhelmingly not arresting people with criminal backgrounds. Right now at the Supreme Court, there is a stay of a lower court's decision, which means that this continues on. This continues on. And we're in limbo to see if there may be, please God, a final decision that says that you cannot racially profile people and kidnap them by secret police. The city awoke. This city awoke. We quickly gathered right where we were, to care and protect and create a refuge. So many people came together and are coming together to care for each other and to look out for each other. At school, at work, on your block, with your family and friends and your neighbors, you are protecting and caring for each other. People of faith, clergy, we came together with our communities. We who have been doing this work of immigration support and solidarity for many, many years together, we quickly connected. We tended to the families whose loved ones were taken, connecting them with attorneys and immediate resources of food and diapers and other needs, developing rapid response mechanisms. We went to the detention center where people were taken to let them know they were not alone. And when we arrived in those first days of June to the detention centers, there were police, and then a couple of days later there were National Guard, and then there were Marines. We came with nonviolence, with the deepest values of our tradition of compassion and love, and ometz lev, courage. We came to bring a presence of witness and nonviolence to keep the focus where it needed to be, on the horribleness happening and the cruelty happening by these secret police, who continued on with no badges and no warrants and no names and no faces. With full humanity, because many of you were there, we stared into the authority of dominance with nonviolence to help the rage, the understandable rage that many in our city were feeling, but to help to shift that rage, to keep the focus on the suffering. And we sang over and over again, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. Over and over again. And we stood unwavering as they pointed those at us and suited up. Asuli mikdash. Make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell amongst you. Pastor Tanya Lopez was at her church in Downey when she saw an older man out of her office window walking through the church parking lot, and seconds later, vans surrounded him, and plainclothed officers with no badges and no warrants showed up, and they started shoving him into a car. She ran out of the parking lot, and she told me her daughter was also with her, running beside her. and another child was inside the church, another one of her kids. Pastor Tanya said, "This is church property. You cannot do this here." And they continued shoving this man violently into this car, this elder. And she was asking him for his name, and they told her to back her way, and they picked up their weapons into her face in front of her daughter. She said again, "This is our church property. You cannot be here." And they got right up into her face, and they said, "The whole country is our property." Right here where we are, in times of peril and danger, we create refuge. We create for each other in all the ways that affirm how human beings should be treated. We say no to this inhumanity, and we say yes to each other, yes to compassion and care and love and safety. The faith community is one organism inside of this refugia, inside of our city making sanctuary. One important piece of a whole city coming together and responding in kind, courageous, creative, and consistent ways. There are so many ways that you and that so many others in our city have been showing up creating sanctuary, doing it, Jacob, on your school, doing it in your neighborhood, Rebecca, doing it in your building, your whole building making a plan, your apartment building about how to protect. Lori going to Home Depot every single day in Pasadena. Angie, our incredible rogue now journalist who put a camera on her dashboard and follows them around so people know where they are. And so many ways, so many small organisms coming together, each to play a part. As soon as we were able to, we have also been sharing with interfaith clergy across the country, telling them what they can do as it was coming to them and learning from them what they suggested we do. This is a time for everyone to pull out all of our creativity and our care and our commitment and our courage. Make me a sanctuary so that God can dwell betocham, amongst us and within us. So friends, what do the refugia want us to know right now? What are the refugia calling out for? 3 things. First, we start from right where we are. You don't have to go anywhere. It's right here. Right in your block, in your school, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, in our community, in our sister communities. We are right here. We're going to turn right here to what we need. We have at the top of all of our Nefesh staff meetings this quote from the Wild Seed Society. And this is the next thing that the refugia want us to know, that each organism plays its own specific role in the whole. So what is needed right here, and what do you specifically have to offer? What are your skills, your windows of time, your desires to learn? So here's the quote we have. We believe that true vocational work exists at the intersection of what our jam is, meaning what we love to do, what we are uniquely good at, what our community needs, and what our community has the capacity to sustain. Can you imagine that? Your little image of your Venn diagram? What can I do right now? Each of us right where we are. And the third thing that refugia really want us to know is that different species work together. The only way a refugia works is when multiple species come together to create refuge. Janine Benu says individual achievements pale when we consider the intricate interlivings that characterize whole systems, communities like tidal marshes or forests. We are a forest people. Here in our communities, in our human communities, we can create these forests, and we need them. Because the growing authoritarianism is so clear in so many areas. Media and judiciary and institutions of the public good and voting and elections and militarization against our own residents. Do you know that the ICE force that's being created will be 30,000 troops? And it is the largest internal domestic army anywhere in the world. And who are they reporting to? Scholars in other countries who study this tell us that we are on the road, friends. We are on the road that leads to a very bad place. But we have time, and we can shift it now. We don't have a lot of time, but we have some time. And I want to raise up that, yes, mass mobilizations are important. I hope you do go out there when there's calls to do it. But I think that these times call for something also more. What they're calling for is diverse, creative, decentralized responses at scale. Whole forests, each organism playing its part. We can protect and care for each other. This is what it means to be in community together. And here in community, this is where we will do this. And we can and will create the positive tipping points that all of this brings. Robin and Robin, or as they are known, the Robins, are a part of our community. And they stepped in fully this summer to make sanctuary and to respond with courage and compassion over and over again. The Robins are both teachers. Many teacher and teacher librarians took your summer breaks and were all in to care and protect each other this summer. The Robins, they're kind of like a superhero duo, I've decided. The teacher Robins responded for calls to help that came from our partner organization, Clue, through Nefesh. We shared with all of you the things that could be done. And in addition to being present at vigils, they felt they could be of more service. So they showed up at the immigration courts, bearing witness and supporting families who were showing up for their immigration hearings, sharing about their rights, and gathering the information in the case in which they were taken from the families the moment they stepped out of the court's doors. And when that happened, immediately supporting the families of those who were taken with next steps, bringing them down to the family area, sharing with them what they could bring, like jackets, because it's so cold in the detention centers, and medications, and unfortunately what they were not allowed to bring, which is food and water, which is not good because there is a lack of food and water in detention. Robin shared, being in the courts has been like a medicine for me. I am in such despair about what is going on, doing little things, sometimes bigger, sometimes taking risks. Anything I can do. Sometimes it's editing a doc. It's been just everything I can do, a little bit every day. It feels like a form of prayer to me. It all feels holy. She said, Robin and I are just trying to do any small thing we can do. And I've been telling people, it is the thing that gives me a sense of hope in a hopeless time. She continued, everyone needs to find what works for them and do it. She said, as teachers, we knew we were good at empathy and taking action and working together. It's what teachers do. So we could use our skills in the courts and with the families. School is back in session, folks, so there are openings for you to fill in for these teachers. And she said, I wear the bright pink yarmulke my sister made me inside the courts. I think the agents recognize me now by the yarmulke. I need to wear it. It reminds me how small I am. It helps to feel the presence of God. And I feel it reminds other people, too, of the presence of God is here. I want the agents, the ICE agents, to remember you can be moral. You have a conscience. We all do. Asuli mikdash. Make for me a sanctuary so that I may dwell amongst them, within all of us. May we be willing. May we make sanctuary, create refuge over and over and over again, and may God's presence dwell amongst us.
To be hopeless would seem so strange. Dishonors those who came before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurt in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is pain all across the nation. There is waiting the whole world round. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds change caresses, even though it burns our eyes. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open, I am willing for it to be hopeless. It seems so strange. Dishonor those who go before us. So lift me those who go